Okay, this is a pressure test. I just came up with this new way of expressing this. This is first time through. I'm thinking this up as I'm talking. But I just came up with this idea to be able to talk about refuse to believe. And what I'm refusing to believe is that everyone hates everyone else. I can't believe that we can't find this common denominator among each other. So trying to think of a way to do that, I thought of this illustration of kind of communication among us all. Now this larger circle is basically the influence of work. You know, this is kind of work, the tedium, the things you have to do, the chores, all that kind of thing. And because that's a lot of communication, a lot of people, different kind of communication than you have with friends and family. Now, this is closer to you in here. This influence of communication, certainly these things all overlap and interplay with one another, but this is kind of trying to get the different components illustrated so we can think about them. And so, of course, even closer to you is one or a few, and you know, this has a lot of different variations. Somebody might be very close to several, a mother, a father, a spouse, etc., etc. So, and then certainly out here is kind of like the dreams. You know, that's all in your head. That's actually, it's funny, it's in here too. You know, you're the bullseye because you can't think about your dreams because of all this stuff. You have to think about this. This is filling up your head. You have to think about this. You have to get on this 100% to be able to function in the way you want to function. So what happens here is I think some of the conflicts among people is there's all these influences. Let's say where you work at, you know, everybody is of a certain, let's say they all like Ohio State football. You know, that's something easy to get behind. Everybody's for Ohio State. Yeah, rah, rah. Okay. And so everyone's behind that. And if you're not behind that, you kind of keep quiet. If you're certainly a Michigan fan, you definitely want to keep it quiet. But that sounds innocent and innocuous in football. The trouble is, it pervades to other things. These other influences at work and in all these things, you can begin to get an idea almost immediately that if we say, okay, that's football, let's say this is your high school, you know, religion, which, you know, cuts through, you know, all these things, and then you got like politics, which also cuts through all these things, because you have these bands of politics. So I think what happens is we naturally, it's in our nature to line up all those bands, because if these things aren't lined up in a row, you are going to be a bullseye. If these are all out of kilter, this one's over here, you know, if you live in and I'm sure some of you do, you might work in a very liberal environment and live, you know, work there and live in a very conservative environment, for example. Or you could be working where there are Ohio State fans and then living where there's Michigan fans. I'm sure there's some people like that. And so that create what happens is you don't want to talk about that. You shut down. You shut up. And because if you're a Michigan fan in Ohio State, you don't say a word. I mean, you'll cause a violent reaction. And again, that's everybody identifies with that. We all know that is in us to react like that to those that oppose the football we like, or the ice cream we like, or just anything we like. If we like it, it's special to us. So any opposition to us, it's very natural to greet that with animosity, with a negative. You know, it's like, why are, what are you talking about? This is the best way right here, in me. But in that is the problem. And because what happens is if you think like that, if you think, hey, you know, basically I'm the center of the universe. I'm in here. And what happens is, believe it or not, all these things have a tendency to kind of come in this way. They're coming in at you. You don't have to do much. They're going to encroach on your mind and everything you do and all of your actions. So the only way you can see the world for what it is, which is out here, because all of this, if you think about it, is completely artificial. You know, if you were to strip away, you know, you're born in the middle of the United States and, you know, right after the dinosaurs or something. You know, this is all, work is a construct of mankind, of humankind, and, you know, and then the family is, and, you know, the relationships, and all this stuff is constructs of society, which we all have arrived at a point that we, you know, along the way, that we like this on average. This is a construct. And the thing is, we need to begin to be able to see outside that construct and realize the influences that are affecting our perspective, because these things will come at you. You have to, in a sense, resist them to be able to see properly. The resistance is the lens to be able to see the universe as it is, and the perspective clear. Because, and the first step in that is to begin to look from different perspectives than from here. What people often spend a lifetime doing is they try and move this stuff around. They'll get a new job, they don't like it there, they'll move, they'll change all of these environments, but they're not changing themselves. And the way you change yourself is you begin to step outside and try and look at the world from another perspective. Pick a perspective. Try it. Just try it. You know, the complete opposition. I read a book on the Dalai Lama. Dalai Lama said one of the things is they imagine themselves giving all their worldly possessions to their worst enemy. And it humbles you, and it begins to make you appreciate and think about each other in different terms than material things. Because if you think about all this stuff is all connected to material things, stuff. And so if you step way back and you go, look, at the end of the day, there's a big pile of stuff here, and then there's me. And how much does that stuff really matter? If it's this big a pile, or this big a pile, or this big a pile, or if it's all shiny, or not shiny, or musical, or whatever. It's just stuff. At the end of the day, here you are over here. You can enjoy this stuff. It helps you enjoy life, no question. But is that what is important? All of this says the stuff is most important. That's what you're told. All of that's coming in. You're in the middle of this communication network, matrix, if you will, surrounded by these different layers. And you know all the layers, and it might be completely different layers than this, but there's layers. And they're all interacting with you. And so you have to begin to consider how that's impacting you and how that's affecting the way you think, because your perspective is your lens to the world. You can have the best logic in the world, but if your perspective is all screwed up, it doesn't matter. You're going to come up with lies. And you want the truth. You just want the real truth. Good or bad, you want the truth. Okay? And just lay it out. And if you think you know everything, I mean, my God, you know, do I have to point out that that's the first indication you don't know anything? But think about this and rate me hard.